The void of space was calm, endless and silent, but that silence was broken by the sudden appearance of a pirate ship, its hull scarred with old battles, its engines growling like hungry beasts. Inside, the crew laughed and shouted, their voices filled with greed. They had spotted a lonely cargo vessel drifting along the trade route. The ship looked old, fragile, and poorly defended. To them, it was the perfect prey. The pirate captain, a tall alien with scarred skin and burning eyes, leaned back in his chair and grinned. "Easy pickings," he said, his voice sharp with arrogance. "Board it, strip it, kill anyone inside. If they resist." The crew cheered. They had done this many times before. Merchant ships were weak, their crews terrified, their cargo valuable. This would be no different, or so they thought. The pirate ship clamped onto the cargo vessel. With a loud metallic thud, airlocks hissed as the boarding tunnels connected. With weapons drawn, the raiders stormed inside, eager to claim their prize. But as they stepped onto the ship, the air felt wrong, too quiet, too still. No alarms sounded, no crew came running, no resistance at all. The corridors stretched before them like the open jaws of a predator. One pirate whispered, "Why is it so empty?" Another laughed nervously, "Maybe they all abandoned it." The captain snarled, "Shut up, keep moving." Step by step the pirates advanced, their boots echoing in the hollow halls. They expected fear, chaos, begging voices. Instead, they found silence. A silence so heavy it pressed against their chests. Lights flickered overhead, throwing shadows across the walls. It felt like the ship itself was watching them. Then it happened. A voice, calm, cold, human. "Turn around now." The sound came from the ship's comm system, echoing through the corridors. The pirates froze, their weapons raised, eyes darting around. The voice spoke again, steady and commanding. "Leave this ship. Walk away. For your own safety, this is your only chance." Shiver ran through the crew. They knew that voice. They had all heard stories about humans, deathworlders, beings who grew strong in impossible environments, who fought like demons, who never surrendered. Some claimed one human could defeat squads of trained soldiers. Others said humans were monsters in the shape of flesh. The captain growled, trying to hide his unease. "One human on a ship this size, don't make me laugh." He raised his rifle and shouted into the empty hall. "We are pirates! You think one of your kind can stop us?" The voice did not waver. "I warned you." The comms went silent. The pirates exchanged uneasy glances. Some shifted nervously, their claws gripping weapons tighter. The thought of treasure had been replaced by a strange fear. One of the younger raiders muttered, "Captain, maybe we should go. The stories." The captain silenced him with a glare. "Stories are for children. Humans bleed like anyone else. Move forward." But as they marched deeper, the unease grew. The ship's doors closed behind them, sealing, with sharp metallic clangs. The lights dimmed, leaving only red emergency glow. The air grew colder. It felt less like prey and more like a trap. Then from the shadows at the end of the hall, a figure stepped forward. He was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing battered armor marked with scars of many battles. His helmet hung at his side, revealing a human face, hard, sharp, eyes like stone. His rifle rested casually in his hands, as if he had all the time in the world. The pirates aimed their weapons instantly. But the human didn't raise his rifle. He simply looked at them, calm and steady. "I'll say it once more," he said. His voice carried no fear, no anger, only cold certainty. "Turn around now. Walk away while you still can." For a moment, silence filled the hall. The pirates stared at him, and he stared back. It was like watching a predator and prey locked in a silent test. The captain finally laughed, though his voice cracked. "You're just one man. Do you really think you can stop us?" The human's eyes narrowed slightly. "Not think, no." The weight of his words sank into the crew. They had heard threats before, but this was different. This was not a bluff. This was a promise. The pirates shifted nervously, their weapons trembling in their hands. One whispered to another, "It's true. The stories are true." But the captain raised his gun defiantly. "Kill him!" he roared. The corridor erupted with the sound of weapons charging. The pirates surged forward, their voices filled with forced courage, but in the back of their minds, fear gnawed at them. They were about to test the one truth every pirate in. The galaxy feared. What happens when you corner a human? The hook had been set. What they thought was easy prey was about to become their worst nightmare. The corridor was filled with the hum of charged weapons, but no one fired. The pirates stared at the lone human standing in their path. His calm eyes seemed to cut through their bravado, making even the boldest raider hesitate. The human's voice was steady, carrying through the metal walls like an unshakable force. "I gave you your chance. Walk away now. Leave this ship behind. Live." For a moment the pirates stood frozen. Some shifted uncomfortably, their claws tightening around their weapons. The stories about humans crawled back into their minds, stories of impossible battles, of armies breaking before a single determined human. One raider, younger and less hardened, whispered, "Captain, maybe we shouldn't." The captain, who cut him off with a growl. His pride burned hotter than his fear. "Don't believe ghost stories. He's one man. We are many." He raised his rifle high. "Kill him, and the ship is ours." The human did not move. His rifle stayed low, his posture relaxed, but his eyes never left theirs. "I warned you," he said softly. The pirates roared, charging forward. Their boots thundered against the floor, weapons spitting fire into the corridor. The first shots lit up the hall with sparks as they struck the walls. But before the pirates could adjust their aim, the ship itself seemed to turn against them. With a sudden hiss, bulkhead doors slammed shut behind them, trapping them inside. Overhead, the lights flickered, plunging the corridor into flashing red shadows. Panic rippled through the raiders as the ship's security systems locked into place. What is this?" One pirate shouted. The human finally raised his rifle. He moved with a predator's grace, his first shot echoing like thunder. One pirate fell instantly, his weapon clattering to the floor. Another tried to return fire, but the human was already gone, slipping into the shadows like a phantom. The pirates fired wildly, their beams sparking against walls, but they hit nothing. The human's voice echoed again, calm as ever. "I told you, this is not your fight to win." Fear spread like fire. The younger pirates began to falter, their courage breaking. "He's playing with us," one cried, panic in his voice. The captain snarled, trying to hold control. "Stay together, push forward." But every step deeper into the ship only made things worse. The air grew colder, the halls narrower, the shadows darker. Every sound made them jump, the hiss of pipes, the groan of metal, the faint scrape of boots behind them. And then, one by one, they began to disappear. A pirate at the rear screamed as a shadow dropped from above. A gunshot rang out, and silence followed. Another turned, only to find the human standing inches away, eyes blazing. A single strike of his blade dropped him before he could cry out. The survivors pushed harder, fear choking their lungs. Sweat dripped down their faces. They realized too late this wasn't a battle. This was a hunt, and they weren't the hunters. Finally, the captain's arrogance cracked. He spun in rage, firing blindly into the dark. "Show yourself, human." "Coward! You can't kill us all!" The lights flickered again, and the human stepped forward into the red glow. His armor was scratched, his face cold and unshaken. Blood marked his blade, but his voice stayed calm. "You are already dead," he said. The pirates froze. Something in his tone broke what was left of their courage. They saw no desperation in his eyes, no fear of death, only certainty. One raider dropped his weapon and backed away, his voice shaking. "Captain, he's not bluffing. We can't win this." But the captain, blinded by pride and greed, shoved him aside. "We fight!" he roared. The human's lips curled in the faintest trace of a smile, but it was not kind. It was the smile of a predator who knew the outcome before the prey even realized it. The battle that followed was not long, it was not fair, and it was not a battle at all. It was a massacre, swift and merciless. When the dust settled, only a handful of pirates remained, huddled together in fear. Their weapons lay scattered, their courage shattered. The human stood among them, untouched, his rifle steady, his presence filling the corridor like a storm. "You were warned," he said, his voice low but clear. The survivors lowered their heads, trembling. They understood now. This was no ordinary man. This was a human. One of the creatures the galaxy had whispered about for generations, and they had dared to challenge him. The captain, wounded and bleeding, glared up at him, but even in his pride, he could not hide the fear in his eyes. What are you?" he gasped. The human leaned closer, his gaze unyielding. "I am what you feared, the mistake you should never have made." The silence that followed was heavier than the sound of battle. The pirates finally realized the truth. This ship was never prey. It was a warning, and they had ignored it. The survivors stumbled back through the dim corridors, their breaths loud and broken. Every shadow looked alive. Every flicker of light felt like an ambush waiting to happen. The pirates had boarded, expecting frightened crew and easy plunder. Instead, they found themselves trapped inside a nightmare designed by a single human. The ship groaned as metal doors sealed behind them. Small, blinking lights activated along the walls, casting eerie red and blue glows across their terrified faces. One pirate pressed a control panel, trying to override the locks, but sparks exploded, burning his claws. He cried out in pain, and the others flinched. The systems weren't broken, they were controlled. "He's using the ship against us," One whispered, his voice trembling. The captain, still bleeding from his side, gritted his teeth. "It doesn't matter. He can't take all of us. Push forward. We'll find the control room, kill him and take the ship." But even his words lacked conviction. As they moved, the halls seemed to twist, guiding them deeper, not out. Every turn closed behind them, herding them like cattle into a maze. The raiders fired at locked doors, but their blasts only left black scars on reinforced steel. This wasn't luck. This was design. The human's voice returned, echoing calmly through hidden speakers. "You shouldn't have come here." The pirates spun, aiming their weapons wildly. The voice came from everywhere, impossible to pin down. "You thought this ship was weak. You thought it was prey." A pause. Then his tone sharpened. "But it's a trap, and you're caught inside." One pirate screamed and fired blindly at the ceiling, bolts scorching metal. His panic spread like fire. The corridor lights dimmed further until only the red emergency glow remained. In that blood-colored haze, the raiders felt like prey in a predator's den. Suddenly, vents above them hissed open. Smoke poured down, thick and choking. The pirates coughed, covering their faces. Visibility dropped to almost nothing. They stumbled in every direction, their shouts mixing with the hiss of the ship's systems. A gunshot cracked through the smoke. One raider dropped instantly, his weapon clattering across the floor. Another scream followed as a figure darted through the haze, fast, precise, merciless. "It's him!" someone shouted. But the human was never where they fired. He appeared and vanished in an instant, each movement designed to confuse and terrify. He was not just fighting them, he was breaking them. The captain tried to rally his crew. "Stay. Together. Don't break formation." But his command came too late. Fear had already shattered their unity. Some ran deeper into the halls, others pressed against walls, shaking, waiting for death. And death came swiftly. Each shot from the dark was followed by silence. Each silence was heavier than the last. When the smoke finally cleared, only 5. Pirates remained, their weapons shaking in their hands. The floor around them was littered with the fallen. The survivors could barely breathe, their bodies trembling with exhaustion and terror. The human appeared again, standing at the far end of the hall. He was calm, his rifle steady at his side, his armor marked with fresh scorch marks, but his eyes unbroken. "You never stood a chance," he said. One of the survivors dropped his weapon and fell to his knees. "Please," he begged. "We surrender. Just let us go." The captain snarled at him. "Coward, stand and fight." But even his own hands shook. The image of the human, standing unflinching after cutting down half their number, broke through his pride. Deep down, even the captain knew the truth. They had lost the moment they boarded. The human stepped closer, his voice low but clear. "You chose greed. You chose blood, and you ignored my warning. This ship isn't your prize. It's your grave." The words crushed what was left of their courage. The pirate's eyes darted around, desperate for escape, but every door was sealed, every hall blocked. The ship had become a cage, and the human held the key. One of the raiders finally screamed and fired, his shots wild, but the human moved with frightening precision, his return fire swift and deadly. The pirate fell before his last shot hit the wall. The silence that followed was unbearable. The captain looked at his few remaining crew and saw nothing but broken spirits. His arrogance crumbled. He lowered his weapon, his voice hollow. "What do you want from us?" The human stopped only a few feet away. His eyes, cold as steel, locked onto the captain's. "I want you to remember, every pirate, every raider, every slaver, you'll tell them what happened here. You'll tell them what a single human did." The captain swallowed hard, the weight of those words sinking deep. The human turned away, his rifle hanging at his side. "Survive if you can, but never forget. You thought you were hunters. You were prey." The remaining pirates stared in stunned silence. For the first time, they understood why the galaxy feared humans. It wasn't just their strength. It was their will, the unshakable certainty that once a human stood in your way, you would never pass unscathed. And as they watched him vanish once again into the shadows of the ship, the truth carved itself into their hearts. This was no easy prey. This was the trap of a predator they could never escape. The few surviving pirates staggered into the control chamber, their boots slipping on blood smeared across the floor. Their breaths were ragged, their weapons hung loose in trembling claws. They had started this raid with laughter and greed, but now every face was pale with terror. The captain slammed his fist against a console, desperate to force the doors open. Sparks flew, but the locks remained unbroken. The ship was sealed, every exit controlled. Rage and fear twisted his face. "He's bleeding us out!" he shouted, his voice cracking. "One by one, he's hunting us like animals!" The crew stared at him, hopeless. Their pride as raiders had turned to ash. Every shadow felt like death waiting to strike. Then, without warning, the overhead lights blazed bright. The sudden glare blinded them, forcing claws to shield their eyes. When their vision cleared, he was there. The human stood at the center of the room, calm, steady, his rifle resting against his shoulder. His armor bore new scars, but his posture was firm, unbroken. His presence filled the chamber like a storm. None of the pirates dared fire. They had seen what happened when they tried. The captain bared his teeth, trying to hold on to his pride. "What do you want from us? If it's cargo, take it. If it's blood, kill us already. Why play this game?" The human's voice was low, deliberate. "Because I want you to understand." He stepped closer. The raiders instinctively backed away, their weapons trembling. "You see yourselves as predators. You think you can take what you want, ships, lives, colonies. You think the galaxy will always bow to fear. But not humans, not me." The pirates exchanged uneasy glances. His words carried weight, heavy with truth. The human's eyes hardened, his tone colder. "This ship was bait. I left it drifting, waiting. You weren't unlucky to find it. You were chosen." Shock rippled through the survivors. One stammered, You set this up, you wanted us to come?" The human nodded once. I knew pirates would come. You always do. You see weakness and you pounce. But weakness can be a mask, and prey can have teeth. The captain's pride wavered, but his rage flared. You dare? You think one man can stand against fleets of us? We are hundreds of ships. The human's lips curled into the faintest smile, but it was not kind. I don't need fleets. One ship at a time is enough. I don't hunt all of you. I hunt the ones foolish enough to test me. His words struck like a blade. The survivors realized the truth. This wasn't chance, and it wasn't luck. They had walked straight into a snare set by a man who had turned his grief into a weapon. One pirate, his voice shaking, dared to ask, "Why? Why do this?" The human's eyes darkened. For the first time, his mask cracked, revealing pain behind his calm. He lowered his rifle, slowly pulling off a gauntlet. His scarred hand trembled slightly as he pointed toward his chest. "Because I remember," he said. "You raided a colony once, a small place, families, children, my people." His voice tightened, each word heavier than steel. "I was there, I buried them, I swore no pirate would ever take from us again without paying." Silence consumed the chamber. The pirates lowered their eyes, shame and fear gnawing at them. They had raided countless worlds, stolen countless lives, but never before had they faced the weight of their crimes like this. The captain tried to sneer, but his voice faltered. "So this is revenge? You hunt us for justice?" The human's eyes locked onto his, unblinking. "Justice, survival, call it what you want. But know this, every time you see a human ship, you'll wonder if I'm on board. And you'll remember what happens when you ignore the warning." The room fell silent again, every breath heavy. The pirate saw not just a man, but a living weapon shaped by loss. He wasn't fighting for cargo or credits. He was fighting for memory, for every scar they had carved into the galaxy. Finally, the human stepped back, his rifle at his side. His voice dropped to a whisper that carried more weight than any shout. "You thought this was easy prey. But tonight, you learned the truth." He gestured toward the door. It slid open, with a hiss, revealing the way back to their ship. "Go," he said. "Tell them what happened here. Tell them what a human is. Let them fear the day they board another vessel and hear my voice." The pirates hesitated, terrified it was another trick, but the human did not move. Slowly, broken and shaking, they stumbled toward the exit. The captain lingered, his pride clashing with his terror. He met the human's eyes one last time. "You, I can't stop us all," he muttered. The human's reply was quiet, certain. "I don't need to. Fear will do the rest." The captain said nothing more. He turned and limped after his crew. The human stood alone in the control chamber, the silence wrapping around him once more. His scars still burned, his losses still haunted him, but his purpose remained clear. He was one man, but to pirates, that was enough. The surviving pirates stumbled back into their ship, broken and silent. The once proud raiding crew that had stormed aboard with laughter and greed now moved like ghosts. Their weapons hung at their sides, useless. Their eyes were wide with terror. None of them spoke as the airlock doors sealed behind them. The captain collapsed into his chair, his clawed hands trembling. He had led his crew into what should have been an easy victory. Instead, he had led them into the jaws of something they could not comprehend. The youngest pirate finally whispered, his voice shaking, "He let us live." The captain snarled, but even his anger was hollow. "He let us live to spread fear. That's his game." He looked down at the floor, his mind still haunted by the human's calm voice, his cold eyes, his scars. "And it will work." The engines roared as the pirate vessel pulled away from the cargo ship. None dared look back, afraid they might see the human still standing there, watching, waiting. Inside the abandoned vessel, the human remained in silence. He stood in the control chamber, his armor darkened by battle, his rifle across his chest. Alone, but not weak. The ship hummed quietly, systems returning to standby as if nothing had happened. To anyone else, it was a derelict. But to him, it was home. It was the stage for his message. He sat slowly, removing his helmet. His face was lined with scars, his eyes weary, but there was no doubt in his gaze. He had achieved what he wanted, not the destruction of every pirate, but something far more powerful. Fear, because fear spreads faster than fire. And indeed, it did. The pirates who survived carried the story with them. At first, they whispered, it in taverns, trying to make sense of what they had seen. One man, they said, one human. He killed half their crew before they even had the chance to aim. He turned the ship itself into a weapon. He spared only a few, just to send a message. The story grew as it spread. Some called him a ghost, a spirit of vengeance haunting the trade routes. Others called him a soldier who had lost everything, now waging war on all raiders. Every retelling made the legend darker, stronger, more terrifying. Soon, entire pirate crews refused to board ships that looked too quiet. Some captains ordered their scanners to search for any sign of human presence before daring to strike. The simple phrase, "a human is on board," became enough to make seasoned raiders hesitate, their courage withering under the weight of a single possibility. And still, the human remained in the shadows, hunting, watching. Every time a pirate ignored the warning, the story grew louder. Every survivor carried his legend further across the stars. Back aboard his ship, the human cleaned his rifle with steady hands. His scars ached, but he did not waver. He remembered the colony, the families, the innocents who had been slaughtered. Their voices never left him. They were the reason he fought. They were the reason he turned his grief into a weapon. He whispered to himself, not as a vow, but as a reminder. Never again. And somewhere, far away, the pirates who had survived that day trembled in their sleep. In their dreams, they saw his eyes, calm and unbroken. In their ears, they heard his voice. You were warned. The galaxy had many predators, but now it had learned of another, one that did not seek riches or glory or conquest, a predator born not of hunger, but of memory. A predator that looked human, and as word spread from system to system, the meaning was clear. Humans were not prey, they never had been.